All right. Thank you for joining me today for our first lesson on nutrition. This is the first segment of what will likely end up being a multi-segment series on nutrition, which hopefully you'll enjoy and find this a helpful part of your journey toward living a healthy lifestyle. Remember that this is a part of this is designed to be part of a course. You likely have a different online teacher who's going to be also facilitating and instructing this course as the course goes on. So as you run into questions that may come from this lecture or other lectures, feel free to always reach out to your instructor, as they are definitely people that can help you find more information on some of this stuff if you're interested. So I'd like to get right into this first segment on nutrition and how it correlates to how it relates to your overall health and wellness. So in our Fitness for Life class, remember, part of what we want to do is we want to establish that there's certain things you can do now in your life that will help you have good health habits for the rest of your life. We've also established that there's not just one way to be healthy. There's actually 6 components that we focus on in this course. Nutrition is one of those 6 components. So we're going to be spending a little bit of time focusing on how nutrition factors into your overall health and wellness. So let's get into this a little bit. So we have several objectives with this unit and with this series on nutrition. First of all, you need to be able to list the 6 nutrients that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about those early on in these segments. You need to understand and be able to describe the caloric value of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Okay. You also need to know what a calorie is, right? So what is a calorie? You hear people talk about calories all the time. It has this many calories in it. You need to know what a calorie is, and then what is the caloric value of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Okay. You need to describe the difference between saturated and unsaturated fats and name some examples of each. All right. That's kind of an important discussion. We talk about different types of fats that you can eat. Saturated and unsaturated are 2 different types, and you need to know the differences and where they come from. You need to be able to understand the difference between complete and incomplete proteins and name some examples of each. You need to understand the difference between simple and complex carbohydrates, and then you need to know what some examples of those would be. You need to describe the needs, okay, so the percentage of total calories of active individuals. So a person who's active, what is their need for the different nutrients, okay, percent of total calories. And then you need to be able to describe the food pyramid, the 5 major food groups contained within, and the number of recommended servings in each food group. You've maybe heard of this or seen this before in previous classes or throughout your life. So this is something you need to be very comfortable with. You need to be able to describe that or explain it to somebody else. You need to develop the skills needed to effectively read food labels. So when you look at a label on the back of a food package, you need to be able to understand like what you're looking at, right? What is it that you're looking at and trying to understand. And then you need to be able to perform and evaluate a personal nutrition analysis. And I'm going to show you in one of our segments on this how to do that. Okay? I know this sounds exciting, so let's dive right into it. Our learning goal is for students to be able to learn the value in maintaining a healthy diet. Students will be able to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy food choices and will have the knowledge to assess and evaluate personal food intake. So why learn this? Okay. Obviously, you can look through these different things here that I've already mentioned. I'll just go through those with you real quick. You need to be able to understand the 6 nutrients and how they support body function. So the reason we talk about these 6 nutrients is because they specifically contribute to how your body functions. Your body needs those. There's different elements of your body that different systems in your body that have to have those. You need to understand what the difference between healthy versus unhealthy food choices, right? You need to understand and gain knowledge of caloric intake. What do calories mean? Like, why do you see calories on all your food packages, and what does that mean? Okay, you need to understand the amounts of sugar and sodium that we should be consuming. We do have a daily allowance or daily requirement for that. Some people think all sugar, all sodium is bad. The answer is that's not true. We actually do need some sodium. We do need some sugar, but we want to talk about the appropriate levels of those. You need to be able to understand the dangers in consuming certain food substances. There are some food substances that can be dangerous, and so you need to know what those risks are. And then you need to use techniques in evaluating nutrients in foods and diet plans. So the goal for me as a teacher is to help you be able to understand, the territory of basic nutrition, So when you go and you want to improve your diet, you want to improve what you're eating and what you're putting in your body and fueling your body with. We want to be able to do that in a way that that you're able to kind of take ownership of your own eating. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to have all the answers all the time. Like, people who really understand nutrition typically are constantly reading up on the latest research, the latest stuff that comes out on nutrition, and as well as where to find the good information. There's a lot of bad information that gets published all the time, as you're probably starting to learn, right? As you start to realize that there's good and bad all over the place. Good and bad information, some that's peer-reviewed, some that's really sound, has sound data behind it, some doesn't. We want to introduce you to the stuff that has a lot of good support and a lot of good science behind it. So that's the goal. That's where we're going. We want you to be empowered as an individual to understand what food's about, why we make certain choices with the food that we do, or why we should make certain choices, and to be able to control that for yourself. So, oh, wow, look at this picture. Just all those fresh fruits, vegetables. We're going to get into talking about different types of food. So, dietary guidelines from 2010 to 2015. This is a few years old at this point, but still hasn't changed a whole lot. The heavy toll of diet-related chronic diseases. So 37% of Americans have cardiovascular disease. You've maybe studied or heard this number in other aspects of this class. 34% of Americans have hypertension, which is another word for stress or chronic stress. Everybody has some stress, right? But 34% of Americans have hypertension, which is chronic stress, right? Which can be contributing to other things like high blood pressure and things like that. 11% of Americans have diabetes. 35% have prediabetes. The majority have type 2 diabetes. 41% of Americans will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetimes. Almost 1 in 2 men and women. 41%. 50% of women and 25% of men ages 50 and older will have an osteoporosis-related fracture in their lifetimes. Okay, 50% of women and 25% of men. So, can our diet help with that? With any of those things? The 2015 dietary guidelines put forth, among other things, that the optimal diet is one that limits red and processed meats, refined sugar, sodium, and saturated fats. It includes consumption of local foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and low-fat dairy. So that even might be different than maybe things that you've learned in the past, right? So again, we're focusing on the consumption of local foods, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes, and low-fat dairy. Scientists have identified, so nutrients, we need to talk about these nutrients. Scientists have identified 45 to 50 different nutrients or food substances that are required for growth and maintenance of your cells. These have been divided into 6 groups, okay? So the first 3, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, all provide your body with energy. And then the next 3 are for support, right? They support body processes and cellular functions. So vitamins, minerals, and then water, okay? So those are your 6, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. So let's talk about each of these. You need to know what each of these are. Carbohydrates provide your body with energy that can be used during exercise. So carbohydrates, when we talk about carbs or carb loading, that's typically people are trying to get energy. They're trying to get energy stored or energy ready to go, so their body can turn that into movement during exercise. Carbohydrates contain 4 calories per gram. You need to know that number, 4 calories per gram. Okay, so a food with 10 grams of carbohydrates provides 40 calories of energy. All right. 55% to 60% of your total calories should come from carbohydrates. Okay, that's important to note. 55 to 60% of your total calories should come from carbohydrates. 15% or less should come from simple carbohydrates, but 40 to 50% should come from complex carbohydrates. So let's talk about the difference between simple and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates. So you can have some of those in your diet. Yes, that's fine, but you shouldn't have, the majority of your carbs should not be coming from these things. So that's things like molasses, honey, anything sweet like candy, cookies, cakes. Some simple sugars, such as those in fruit and milk, are natural, but the majority of simple sugars we consume are added to foods. So refined sugars is another thing that you hear people say. Okay. So different types of sugars that you might hear of. Fructose is a type of sugar that comes from fruit. So sugar occurs in a lot of different things naturally. There's sugar in milk, which is lactose. Okay, it's an element in milk. Maltose is a form of sugar that's derived in grain, and then sucrose is from sugar. Okay. Your complex carbohydrates, which should make up about 40 to 50% of your carbs or your energy, are found in whole grain breads, cereals, pasta, rice, and vegetables. So that's like peas, beans, potatoes, any of those things. Okay, those are your complex carbohydrates. That's where most of your carbs should come from. Another thing that you need to have in your diet is fiber. Okay, fiber is extremely important. It's the tough, stringy part of vegetables, fruits, and grains. It is important because it helps move waste through your digestive system. If you're just eating stuff that has very low fiber, you don't get the proper digestion that your body really needs. So fiber helps. Your body's used to it. It's designed to actually have fiber in that food and help move that food along through your digestive and your gastrointestinal tract. Fiber prevents constipation. It also reduces risk of colon cancer. It also reduces cholesterol levels. So 3 really good reasons to have fiber in your diet. Okay, so some sources of fiber would be like celery, right? If you've had celery before, there's like stringy parts in that celery, but it's really healthy for you. It also helps just kind of keep everything in your digestive system moving along smoothly. The peel of fruits and vegetables is fiber. It's good high fiber. Leaves, stems, whole grain breads, nuts, and seeds are all high in fiber. All right, your proteins. Okay, so you're going to see proteins in your other nutrition information as well. Proteins are nutrients that help your body grow and repair itself. Proteins contain 4 calories per gram. So a food with 20 grams of protein provides 80 calories of energy. Okay, approximately 12 to 15% of your total calories should come from protein. All right, so just keep that number in mind. 12 to 15% of your total calories should come from protein. We get protein from animals and some plant resources. There's a difference between what are called incomplete and complete. So complete and incomplete proteins. Foods that contain all 8 of the essential amino acids are known as complete proteins. Complete proteins are found mostly in meat and dairy products. Soy protein is the only complete protein that comes from a plant source. Other proteins called incomplete proteins must be eaten in combination with each other to make complete proteins. For example, beans are often eaten with corn tortillas to make a complete protein, right? Or rice, beans with rice would be another example of that. Processed meats such as bacon, sausages, and ham do cause cancer, according to the World Health Organization. Okay, so there is a higher risk of contributing to the development of certain cancers by eating too much bacon, sausages, or ham. Fats. Let's talk about fats. Fats, which contain 9 calories per gram. Okay, remember that. Fats contain 9 calories per gram of fat versus carbohydrates and proteins, which only had 4 calories per gram. That's about twice the amount of energy in carbohydrates and proteins. Fats provide energy during sustained exercise. No more than 30% of your total calorie intake should come from fat. Like proteins, fats can be found in both animal and plant sources. Fats are classified as either saturated or unsaturated. Saturated fats, let's talk about those too. Saturated fats, you really want to limit, okay? They come mostly from animal sources and are solid at room temperature. So bacon, hamburger fat, butter, Crisco shortening, those are examples of saturated fats. Unsaturated fats come mostly from plants such as corn, soybeans, olives, peanuts, and are liquid at room temperature. So your olive oil, corn oil, vegetable oil, things like that are unsaturated fats. Trans fats, so you'll see sometimes this talked about on your food labels. Trans fats or trans fatty acids are created in an industrial process that adds hydrogen to liquid vegetable oils to make them more solid. Another name for trans fats is partially hydrogenated oils. Look for this on ingredient lists or on food packages. Trans fats are dangerous and cause plaque to build up on arteries. Okay, if you've taken the earlier part of this course where we talked about your heart health or your cardiovascular health, you know that buildup of plaque that comes from these fats on the interior of your blood vessels can be very dangerous. It can cause heart disease, it can cause strokes, and other high blood pressure and other issues that can be severe health risks. Trans fats can be found in many foods, but especially in deep fried foods such as French fries, donuts, baked goods that store on the shelf for long periods of time. Foods like pie crust, pizza dough, pastries, cookies, crackers, and margarine all contain dangerous trans fats. So the danger of trans fats lies it lies in the effect that they have on LDL cholesterol levels. Trans fats increase LDL cholesterol levels while reducing the amount of beneficial HDL cholesterol in your body. Again, this is something that you would have learned in the earlier part of this course, in the first term of this course, where we talked about HDL and LDL cholesterol. This significantly increases your risk of heart attack. Okay? So we want to reduce the amount of trans fats that we consume. All right, so that's an introduction to an introduction to nutrition in general, and also included the six nutrients that we need to make sure we have in our diet, and the parts of those that we need to understand. If you need to review this stuff, go back through and watch this video as much as you need to. Make sure you took good notes. Make sure you fill out your study guide as always, and complete any other instructions that went along with this assignment. Thanks for joining me. If you have any other questions on any of this stuff, make sure you reach out to your instructor to get more information. Thank you.